All right, today we're jumping into a really powerful analysis that makes a pretty startling claim that a massive uprising in Iran is being violently crushed, and, according to the source, the rest of the world is barely noticing. So let's get into it and see how they build this case, argument by argument.
So, right off the bat, we get this quote that really sets the tone for everything. The idea here is that something huge is happening, but it's happening in the dark. The lights are out, comms are down, and the media, according to this source, they've just moved on. This is the foundation for the whole argument. Okay, so Section 1, an unseen uprising. The core idea here, the central claim of the whole analysis, is that there's this massive, popular movement against the government in Iran, but the rest of the world just isn't seeing it. So, how can something so big go unseen? Well, according to the source, there's a specific reason for that: an information blackout. The argument is pretty straightforward. The government has deliberately cut off the internet and communications. Why? To keep the world from seeing what they're allegedly doing to protesters. And language the source uses to describe this situation, it is incredibly strong, calling the entire country a concentration camp. I mean, that's not a term you use lightly. It paints a picture of 90 million people living without any basic human or religious rights.
All right, so that's the claim. Now let's look at the evidence the source presents to back it up. We're moving into the details of this alleged brutal crackdown. What exactly do they say is happening on the ground? Well, the analysis paints a really stark picture. You have what are described as unarmed civilians just chanting for freedom. And the response? According to the source, it's not just suppression, it's extreme violence. They use these really charged terms, goon squads, death squads, even barbarity and sadism. The point being made is that this is intentionally cruel. From there, the analysis gets into the alleged human cost. It starts talking numbers. The source claims that as bits of information started to leak through that blackout, the first casualty figures they were seeing were around 15,000. But it didn't stop there. According to the source, as more reports supposedly came in, that number, it doubled. We're now talking about a figure of 30,000. And then we get to the final number presented in the analysis, and it's just staggering: 50,000. 50,000 people allegedly massacred on the streets. This is the key figure that the source uses to pivot to its next major point: the world's reaction, or, as they see it, the lack of one. Okay, so this is where the argument takes a big turn. We've heard about the alleged events inside Iran. Now the analysis shifts its focus outward to what it calls a global silence on the issue. And this is really the heart of their critique. The source points to places you'd expect to see an outcry, right? The streets of Western cities, university campuses, and it notes what it calls an amazing silence. The question they're asking is, with claims this severe, where is the public outrage? And they put the question to all of us, really. The Ayatollah turns off the internet, hoping the world won't notice. The question is, did we notice? The suggestion here is that the regime's strategy worked, that the world simply didn't see it. Now, to really drive this point home, the analysis does something very specific. It creates a tale of two conflicts. It draws a direct comparison to highlight what it sees as a massive double standard in how the world pays attention. And this comparison is really the centerpiece of the whole argument. So on one side, you have the situation in Iran, described as silent, not making headlines, no university protests. Then on the other side, you have the global reaction to the conflict in Gaza, pro-Palestinian movements, campus encampments, huge marches. The contrast, as presented by the source, is incredibly stark. And it all boils down to this one really provocative question: is Iranian blood cheaper than Gazan blood? I mean, that's designed to be a direct challenge, right? It's forcing the audience to think about this perceived difference in global outrage. So, for the final part of the analysis, the focus shifts again. It moves away from criticizing the present and starts imagining a different future. It asks, what would a post-regime Iran actually look like? What would it mean for the region and for the whole world? And this vision is built on one core premise: the complete removal of the current government. And again, look at the language used: death cult, murderous regime, the world's leading state-sponsored terrorism. It's making it clear that in its view, no change is possible without this fundamental step.
So what does that new Iran look like according to this vision? Well, it's a total reversal of the current state of affairs. We're talking about an end to funding for groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis, a renewal of ties with Israel and the West. It's pitched as this breath of fresh air for the entire Middle East. And of course, the central promise is restoring basic human and religious rights to 90 million people.
So, at the end of all this, we aren't really left with an answer. Instead, we're left with the huge, central question that the source itself poses. In this age where we're all globally connected 24/7, what is it that actually determines which stories grab the world's attention and which ones just disappear into the static?